So I don't know how a kazoo works. Sue me! Kazoo me! I will tell you this. I don't, okay? I don't know how it works. Got a lot of feedback about how I don't know how it works. And in the moment, I knew I didn't know how it worked. And I was floundering, and I didn't care for the fact I was floundering. And then I saw a lifeline. I saw a beacon in the storm. Stage manager Steve is gesturing to me. And this is what Steve thought the problem was. He goes, Steve thought the issue was you blow it through the lil end. If you don't know, you know what I mean? If you're not the kazoo guy, don't jump in. Someone did write, you hum, you don't blow. And while the whole thing was embarrassing, I did trick you into saying you don't blow. Also, if that's the trick, if I have to hum to make the kazoo work, I'm just gonna hum. I can hum on my own. I don't need to look like the fucking dorkiest Pied Piper. Also, I do think it was a broken kazoo. I was doing it wrong, but, well, I don't want to try. They were like, this one works, this one doesn't, but I don't even want to try. I can deal with up once. Steve, still not the least helpful crew assist this week. That would be Wally, who in the intro to Andrew Scott wrote, "A knife's out." So anyway, after the show, I went over to Wally. I'm like, hey, I need the cue card. And Wally knew something was up. And he said, what for? I go for corrections. So today, he says, before the show, did you get the cue card? I go, I did get the cue card. He goes, I got a fun detail about the cue card. I don't know if you want it or not. And I go, well, you know it's for corrections. He goes, well, you know, you could take it or leave it. And I was like, all right, what is it? He goes, my son did that one. And my question to Wally is, do you grab him by the belt when you throw him under the bus? Couple of things people didn't care for last week in corrections. One, I said Seth sauce at one point and was asked never to use those two words together ever again. And also, I took an ice cube on the desk. I put an ice cube on the desk and I just let it melt over the course of corrections, and that was, people didn't like that. So this time I am gonna do it again, but like I'll do it right off camera. So what's the? Do it over here. But it is happening. Knife's out. Maybe they'll get it by the fourth one. You know him from Stars War. We were talking about how Donald Trump actually said, you know, football is a better name for what we call soccer than our football. And I don't know why I got this correction from a jackal, but they said, I've long had a better name for football, and maybe we could give it to Donald Trump. And, you know, at first, because they're a jackal, I didn't think it would be useful. But when I heard the name, I thought, you know what, even for the deepest red state football fan, I think they would agree this is a better name. And I think they would embrace it, and it would actually solve the problem between soccer being, you know, a game with a ball played with your foot and what we call American football. Hand egg. somebody wrote in, hey, whatever happened to popsicle shtick? They said, I loved popsicle shtick. Whatever happened to that? Well, it's a tale as old as time. We lost our popsicle guy to crypto. We talk about how everything Ben writes bends in. And someone wrote, what a narcissist. And that's what I used to think as well. But then Ben explained it to me that he has to be in it because he's the only one who can do it right. People thought maybe Ben wrote pennies because maybe it was Ben's voice that was screaming for the one penny. I'm calling it pennies like everybody knows it. Like everybody around New York this week's like, who wrote pennies? Someone's suppressing the view number on pennies on YouTube because I'll tell you just from the streets, it's more than 40K. Pennies, they said, hey, maybe Ben was the voice of the penny screaming from backstage. That was actually Reese, and Reese did a great job. And we'll just check in real quick. There we go. Reese did a great job, and I actually feel I want to take a little credit because he said, how do you want me to scream for the penny? And I said, just scream the way I scream every time I get an email from you with the subject heading, this is the last one. A lot of penny comments. A lot of penny. Here, I'm just going to read a full penny comment. I feel for certain people, the penny sketch was a dream come true as far as knowledge they had that they could now share. That 1978 Porky's nickel uses an image of Jefferson, which wasn't the then current version of the Jefferson nickel, and in fact wasn't even created until 2005. Also, at 3 minutes 38 seconds, the graphic of the penny flipping horizontally would show the Lincoln Memorial upside down. The penny would have to flip vertically for it to show the image as you displayed it. Ironically, a penny with the Lincoln Memorial flipped in the direction you showed would itself be a rare, valuable error coin, of which there are a few in circulation. The coin is properly called the 1 cent piece. Penny is slang in the US and is actually the name of the 1 pence piece from the UK. You know the expression penny for your thoughts? I feel like there should be another expression, dollar for you to keep your penny thoughts to yourself. This one, I mean, there was a real morbid comment because we said, you know, and again, we were having fun. You know, the reason pennies is the hit it is. That's because we were having fun. We said there was an X-ray penny, which was an error that just showed the X-ray of Lincoln. And someone said, well, actually, the X-ray wasn't invented until 1895. So an X-ray of Lincoln should have had a hole. You know, for the laughs to go in. I will say, so we said Chelsea's been out, my assistant Chelsea's been out chopping wood. A lot of people had some issues with her form. Which doesn't seem like a very fair note. It's not a note for Chelsea, but they did say if this is your assistant's form, it might be an OSHA violation to send her out to chop wood. Family Guy, the show Family Guy, made a similar grinder joke to the joke I made on last week's corrections. So I just want to acknowledge I had not seen that joke. I know people assume I've seen every episode of Family Guy because my Family Guy impressions are so good. Oh, Lois. Lois. Somebody, I don't even know what this was a correction to, we were talking a little bit about like, if you think Nazis are good guys, do you root against Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark? And someone just said, Raiders of the Lost Ark would have ended the same way without Indiana Jones. And they're kind of right. Like, the Nazis would have gotten the Ark of the Covenant, and they would have done everything they did at the end of the movie. There just wouldn't be a dude, tied up on a stake saying, look away. Makes you think a little differently about old Indiana Jones. Guy was just on a romp. Somebody just wrote in a paper on corrections. For my English seminar on comedy, got a 97%. Would be happy to send it your way. Okay. See me next week.